She tore his presentation in half right in front of the entire board. When I need business advice from a mid-level engineer with no financial background, I'll be sure to ask. 12 hours later, Diana Hawkins stood shivering on Marcus Reed's doorstep in the worst storm of the decade. Her $3,000 suit plastered to her body. Her 7-year-old son trembling beside her. Her car dead half a mile back. Her phone dead. His house the only light in the darkness. Marcus recognized her immediately. The woman who had destroyed his career that morning. The Ice Queen of Sterling Technologies. He could have closed the door. He should have closed the door. Instead, he looked at the terrified child and said 5 words that would change everything. "Come in before I change my mind. Before we continue, tell us where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels." The conference room fell silent. Marcus Reed stood at the head of the table, his 6-month project displayed on the screen behind him. Workflow balance. A system he had built during late nights after his daughter went to sleep, fueled by cold coffee and the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference. Diana Hawkins, the newly appointed CEO of Sterling Technologies, hadn't looked up from her phone since he started speaking. The projected savings. Marcus continued fighting to keep his voice steady. Would reach $2.3 million annually, while reducing overtime by 30% across all departments. Diana finally raised her eyes. Cold. Calculating. The kind of eyes that had earned her the nickname Ice Queen among employees who would never dare say it to her face. "Mr. Reed," she interrupted, her voice cutting through his presentation like a scalpel. "Is it?" "Yes, ma'am." And what exactly qualifies a mid-level engineer to redesign company-wide workflow systems? Marcus felt heat rise to his face. "I have 8 years of experience in systems architecture. Before Sterling, I was a team lead at Nexus Technologies. I didn't ask for your resume." Diana stood picking up his printed handout with 2 fingers, as if it might contaminate her. "I asked what qualifies you to waste this board's time with proposals outside your job description." The other executives shifted uncomfortably. No one met Marcus's eyes. "With respect, Ms. Hawkins, the current system is burning out our best people. Sarah Chen in accounting missed her daughter's recital 3 times this quarter. Mike Torres in marketing sleeps at the office during product launches. We talk about work-life balance in meetings, but our systems don't support it." Work-life balance. Diana repeated the words like they tasted sour. "How touching. And what do you know about running a company, Mr. Reed? About quarterly earnings, shareholder expectations, competitive pressures. I know that our turnover rate has increased 40% in the past 2 years. I know that exit interviews consistently cite burnout as the primary reason for leaving. I know. You know nothing." Diana's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than a shout. "You sit in your cubicle pushing code while people like me make the decisions that keep this company alive. Your little project here." She tore his hand out in half, slowly, deliberately. The sound of ripping paper filled the silent room. "Is the kind of naive idealism that bankrupts businesses." She turned to address the room. "This presentation is concluded. Mr. Reed, return to your assigned duties. If you want to play CEO, I suggest you start your own company." Marcus gathered his materials with shaking hands. The walk back to his cubicle felt like a mile. He could hear the whispers following him down the corridor. At his desk, he sat staring at his family photo. His wife Sarah, who had died 3 years ago. His daughter Grace, now 7, who was waiting for him at after-school care. His phone buzzed. A text from Grace's babysitter. "She's asking when you're coming. Says she has something important to show you." Marcus checked his watch. 4:47 p.m. He could stay late. Start revising the proposal. Try to salvage something from the wreckage. Or he could go home to his daughter. He grabbed his coat and walked out the door. Some choices weren't choices at all. Grace was waiting on the front steps when he pulled up, her dark curls bouncing as she ran to meet him. "Daddy! Daddy! Look what I made!" She thrust a crayon drawing into his hands. A woman with an exaggerated frown, blue lines shooting from her eyes, surrounded by smaller figures cowering in fear. At the top, in a child's uneven lettering, the Ice Queen. Marcus's heart stopped. "Sweetheart, where did you... Who is this?" "It's from your story, Daddy. The one about the Snow Queen who's mean to everyone because she forgot how to be warm." Grace tugged his hand. "Come inside. I want to show you my science project." Marcus followed her into the house, his mind racing. He'd told Grace bedtime stories based loosely on work situations, fairy tales where problems could be solved and villains could be redeemed. He hadn't realized she'd been paying such close attention. "See?" Grace pointed to a contraption on the kitchen table. "It's a water filter. Mrs. Patterson says the science fair is next month, and I need to make it better." Marcus knelt beside her, examining the half-completed project. "This is amazing, sweetheart. You're so smart." "Mama was smart too. That's what you always say." The mention of Sarah hit him like it always did. A physical ache in his chest. Yes, she was. The smartest person I ever knew. Grace studied him with those two perceptive eyes. "Are you sad, Daddy?" "Did something happen at work?" "Just a rough day, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." "Was it the Ice Queen? Did she freeze your heart?" Marcus pulled his daughter into a hug, holding her tight. "No, baby. My heart is just fine. I've got you to keep it warm." They made dinner together, spaghetti with jarred sauce. Nothing fancy, but Grace insisted on stirring while Marcus supervised. After dinner came homework, then bath time, then the negotiation over which pajamas to wear. By 8:30, Grace was tucked into bed, Mr. Whiskers, the stuffed rabbit, clutched to her chest. "Story, Daddy?" Marcus settled onto the edge of her bed. "Which one tonight? The one about the knight and the Ice Queen. Please." He hesitated. After today, that particular story felt different. "Once upon a time," he began slowly, "there was a brave knight who lived in a small cottage with his daughter, the cleverest princess in all the land." "That's me," Grace whispered. "That's you." Marcus smiled. Not far from their village stood a magnificent castle made of ice where the Snow Queen ruled. She was powerful and feared, and everyone in the kingdom trembled when she passed. "Why was she so mean?" "She wasn't always mean, sweetheart. Once long ago she had been kind. But something happened, something that hurt her very badly, and she built walls of ice around her heart so she would never be hurt again." Grace yawned. "What happened to her?" "I'll tell you tomorrow. Close your eyes now." "Daddy?" "Yes." "I think the Ice Queen is probably lonely. Being mean all the time must be very tiring." Marcus stared at his daughter. 7 years old, and already wiser than most adults he knew. "You might be right, sweetheart. Now sleep." He kissed her forehead and slipped out of the room, leaving the door cracked the way she liked. In the hallway, he paused. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The weatherman on TV had been warning about storms all week. Marcus walked to the living room and turned on the news. "Worst storm in a decade expected to hit the greater Austin area tonight. Residents are advised to stay indoors. Power outages likely. Emergency services may be delayed." He checked the windows, made sure the flashlights had batteries, filled some containers with water. Standard storm prep. He'd been through plenty of Texas storms before. By 10 p.m. the wind was howling. Rain hammered the windows like fists demanding entry. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. Marcus grabbed a flashlight and checked on Grace, still sleeping peacefully, clutching Mr. Whiskers. He returned to the living room and sat in darkness, listening to the storm rage outside. Somewhere around 11 p.m. he heard it. 3 sharp knocks on the front door. Marcus froze. Visitors were rare enough in normal circumstances. In the middle of the worst storm in a decade, impossible. The knocks came again, more urgent, almost desperate. He approached the door, cautiously, flashlight in hand. Through the peephole, he could only make out a dark, hunched silhouette. Against his better judgment, he unbolted the lock and opened the door a crack, keeping the security chain fastened. The wind nearly tore the door from his hand. A woman stood on his porch, drenched from head to toe. What had once been an expensive red dress was plastered to her body. She held the hand of a small boy who appeared to be about Grace's age, equally soaked and visibly shivering. "I'm sorry to disturb you." The woman began, her voice trembling from the cold. "Our car broke down about half a mile back. My phone's dead, and yours is the only house with lights." "The power's out here too," Marcus said. "I'm using flashlights," and lightning split the sky, illuminating the woman's face in harsh white light. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. Even with her blonde hair plastered to her forehead and makeup running down her cheeks, he recognized her immediately. Diana Hawkins. The CEO who had humiliated him in front of the entire executive team 12 hours ago. The Ice Queen herself, standing on his porch, begging for help. For a long moment, Marcus didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the woman who had torn his work in half, who had called him naive, who had dismissed 6 months of effort with a wave of her manicured hand. The universe, he thought, had a twisted sense of humor. Diana was still talking, her words tumbling over each other in desperation. "Please, I know it's late. I know this is an imposition, but my son, he's freezing, and I don't know where else to go, and the storm—" She stopped mid-sentence. Recognition dawned in her eyes. "You," she breathed. "Me." The single word hung between them, heavy with everything that had happened that morning. Diana's face went pale, paler than the cold had already made it. "Mr. Reed, I didn't realize that the only lit house on this road belonged to the mid-level engineer whose work you destroyed this morning." Diana flinched. Marcus should have felt satisfaction, some petty vindication at seeing the Ice Queen brought low. Instead, he felt nothing but exhaustion. And then the boy spoke. "Mommy, I'm cold." Marcus looked down at the child, 7 years old maybe, shivering so hard his teeth were chattering, eyes wide with fear and confusion. An innocent kid who had no idea about corporate politics, or humiliation, or the complicated history between the two adults standing on either side of a threshold. Marcus thought of Grace sleeping safely upstairs. He thought of Sarah, who would have opened this door without hesitation. He thought of the man he wanted to be versus the man Diana Hawkins had made him feel like that morning. And he made a choice. He unlatched the security chain and pulled the door open. "Come in before I change my mind." Diana stared at him, disbelief written across her face. "Mr. Reed, You're letting the rain in. Get inside." She hesitated for one more second. Then she grabbed her son's hand and stepped across the threshold. Marcus closed the door behind them, shutting out the howling storm. The silence inside was deafening. "Stay here," Marcus said. "I'll get towels." He walked away before she could respond. In the hallway closet, he grabbed every towel he could find. 3 beach towels, 2 bath towels, a stack of hand towels. His hands were shaking slightly, though whether from adrenaline or anger he couldn't tell. When he returned to the entryway, Diana and her son were standing exactly where he'd left them, dripping onto his hardwood floor, looking more lost than he'd ever imagined the Ice Queen could look. He handed her the towels. "Bathrooms down the hall on the left. There should be some of my wife's old clothes in the dresser. Take whatever fits. I'll find something for your son." Diana opened her mouth, closed it, then simply said, "Thank you." She took her son's hand and disappeared down the hallway. Marcus stood in his entryway, listening to the storm rage outside and wondering what the hell he'd just done. He went to Grace's room and quietly gathered some of her clothes, a t-shirt that might fit the boy, some sweatpants, a pair of thick socks. He laid them outside the bathroom door and knocked. "Clothes for your son. They might be a little small." "Thank you." Diana's voice came through the door. "Mr. Reed, I don't know how to—" "Save it. Just get warm." He walked away. In the kitchen, he started heating water for tea. Something to do with his hands. Something to keep him from thinking too hard about the surreal situation unfolding in his home. 20 minutes later, Diana and her son emerged from the bathroom. Diana was wearing Sarah's old sweatshirt, the gray one with the faded Stanford logo that Marcus had never been able to throw away. Her blonde hair hung in damp waves around her face. Without the power suit and the perfectly applied makeup, she looked younger, softer, almost human. Her son was swimming in Grace's clothes, but at least he'd stopped shivering. "I made tea," Marcus said flatly. "Sit." Diana sat at his kitchen table. Her son Marcus realized he didn't know the child's name climbed into the chair beside her. Marcus placed 2 mugs on the table and leaned against the counter, keeping his distance. "Thank you," Diana said again, "for letting us in. You didn't have to." "No, I didn't." The words came out harder than he intended, or maybe exactly as he intended. Diana's jaw tightened. "I understand if you're angry." "Do you?" Marcus cut her off, his voice low but sharp. "Do you understand, Ms. Hawkins? Because 12 hours ago, you stood in front of the entire executive team and told me I know nothing. You tore up 6 months of my work. You humiliated me in front of everyone I have to face every single day." Diana's face went red. "Mr. Reed, and now you're sitting in my kitchen, wearing my dead wife's clothes, drinking my tea, because I, the naive idealist who wastes people's time, was the only one who would open his door to you." Silence. The boy looked between his mother and Marcus. Confusion and fear mixing in his expression. Diana's hands were trembling around her mug. "You're right," she whispered. Marcus blinked. "What?" "You're right. About everything. What I did today was unconscionable. I was cruel. I was dismissive. I was everything I've worked so hard to become because I thought that's what power looked like." She looked up at him, and for the first time, Marcus saw something behind the ice. Pain. Real, raw pain. "I've spent so many years building walls that I forgot there was ever a person behind them. I tore your work apart because it threatened something I wasn't ready to face." "And what's that?" "That you were right." Diana's voice cracked. "Every word you said was right. The burnout, the turnover, the broken systems I've known for months. I've seen the exit interviews. I've watched good people leave because we squeezed them until there was nothing left to give." She set down her mug. "But admitting that would mean admitting that everything I've built my career on is wrong, that the sacrifices I've made—" She stopped, glanced at her son. "Weren't worth it." The boy tugged on her sleeve. "Mommy, are you sad?" Diana's face crumpled, just for a moment, a crack in the ice that revealed the woman beneath. "I'm okay, baby. I'm just having a conversation with Mr. Reed." "Is he mad at you?" Diana looked at Marcus. "Yes," she said quietly. "He's mad at me, and he has every right to be." The boy considered this. "Did you say you were sorry?" "Not yet." "You should say sorry. That's what you tell me when I'm mean to someone." Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus thought. Diana turned to face him fully. "Mr. Reed, Marcus, I'm sorry. What I did today was wrong. Not just professionally wrong, personally wrong. You brought a thoughtful, researched proposal to the table, and I destroyed it because I was threatened by what it represented." She took a breath. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to accept my apology. But I wanted you to know that I see what I did. And I'm ashamed of it." Marcus stared at her. He had imagined this moment, fantasized about it during the long walk back to his cubicle, the Ice Queen apologizing, admitting she was wrong, acknowledging his worth. But he'd never imagined it like this, never imagined her looking so broken, so human, so much like someone who had been fighting a battle no one else could see. "Why?" he asked. "Why what?" Why are you like this? The Ice Queen, that's what everyone calls you. You know that, right? You must know. So why? What happened to you that made you think this was the way to lead? Diana was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Do you really want to know?" I asked, didn't I? She glanced at her son, who was starting to droop with exhaustion. Can he lie down somewhere? It's late, and he's had a difficult night. Marcus hesitated, then he nodded. There's a sleeping bag in the closet. He can take the couch for now. He helped set up a makeshift bed, and Diana settled her son under the blankets, smoothing his hair back from his forehead. Sleep now, Ethan. We're safe here. Is the man still mad at you? A little, but that's okay. Go to sleep. Ethan. The boy's name was Ethan. Marcus watched Diana kiss her son's forehead. Watch the way her whole face softened when she looked at him. There was love there. Real love. Whatever else Diana Hawkins was, she was a mother who loved her child. When she returned to the kitchen, Marcus had poured 2 fresh cups of tea. Sit, he said. She sat. Talk. So she did. Diana wrapped her hands around the warm mug and stared into the tea like it held answers she'd been searching for her entire life. I was 22 when I got pregnant with Ethan, she began. Fresh out of business school, top of my class. Every major company in the country was fighting to hire me. Marcus said nothing, just listened. His father was a senior partner at a consulting firm, married, of course. I didn't know that until I told him about the pregnancy. Her jaw tightened. Do you know what he said? He said handle it, like Ethan was a problem to be solved, a line item to be deleted from a spreadsheet. What did you do? I kept my baby, and I lost everything else. Diana looked up at him. The job offers disappeared. Word got around, you know how these circles work. Suddenly I was damaged goods, the promising young executive who'd made a poor decision. The companies that had been fighting over me wouldn't return my calls. That's not fair. No, it wasn't. But it was real. She took a sip of tea. I spent 2 years scraping by, taking freelance work, living in a 1-bedroom apartment with a baby and more student debt than I could count. And every single day, I promised myself that I would never be that vulnerable again. So you built walls. I built a fortress. I clawed my way back into the corporate world. I worked harder than anyone else. I made myself indispensable. And whenever someone tried to dismiss me or underestimate me, I crushed them before they could crush me. Her voice cracked. I became the thing I hated. The person who looks at someone with potential and sees only a threat. The person who tears others down to feel powerful. She met his eyes. That's who I was in that conference room today. Not a leader, not a CEO, just a scared woman trying to protect herself by destroying someone else. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "That's a hell of a story." It's not an excuse. No, it's not. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. Good, because I don't. Diana flinched. But, Marcus continued, I understand, more than you might think. He sat down across from her. My wife Sarah died 3 years ago. Brain aneurysm. One day she was there laughing at my terrible jokes planning Grace's 4th birthday party. The next day she was gone. Diana's hand moved to her mouth. Marcus, I'm so sorry. After she died, I shut down. For months I could barely function. I went through the motions at work, came home, took care of Grace, and then sat in the dark, wondering how I was supposed to keep living. His voice roughened. Grace saved me. She needed a father, not a ghost. So I forced myself to be present, to keep going, to build something that Sarah would have been proud of. He gestured around the kitchen. This house, my job, the proposal I brought to your board today that wasn't about career advancement. That was about making something meaningful, Something that would help people like me who are trying to balance work and family and grief and all the impossible things life throws at you. Diana's eyes were wet. And I destroyed it. You tried to, but you know what, the idea still exists. The data still exists. You can tear up paper, but you can't tear up truth. You could rebuild it. I already am. Started on the drive home. Diana shook her head slowly. You're remarkable. You know that. I'm a father. I'm an engineer. I'm a man who's trying to do right by his daughter and honor his wife's memory. That's not remarkable. That's just life. It's remarkable to me. They sat in silence for a moment. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside something had shifted. The air felt different, lighter. Can I ask you something? Diana said. You can ask. I might not answer. Why did you let us in? Really? After what I did to you today, you had every reason to leave us standing in that storm. Marcus considered the question. Ethan, he said finally. What? Your son. When I opened that door and saw him standing there shivering and scared, I thought about Grace. About what I would want someone to do if she was in that situation. He leaned back in his chair. I couldn't punish a child for his mother's sins. That's not who I am. That's not who Sarah raised me to be. Diana's tears spilled over. Sarah sounds like she was an amazing woman. She was. She really was. Grace is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's the best thing in my life. Diana wiped her eyes. Ethan is mine. Whatever else I've gotten wrong, and I've gotten a lot wrong, he's the one thing I did right. He seems like a good kid. He is. Better than I deserve. Marcus studied her. The Ice Queen was gone. Melted away by exhaustion and honesty and the strange intimacy of a storm that had stripped away all pretense. What remained was just a woman, a mother, someone who had made mistakes and was drowning in them. It's late, he said. You should get some sleep. We can figure out the car situation in the morning. Where should I? Take my room. I'll sleep on the floor in Grace's room. I can't take your bed. You can, and you will. You're exhausted. Your son is exhausted. Tomorrow is going to be complicated enough without both of us running on empty. Diana hesitated. Marcus, thank you. For everything. For opening the door. For listening. For not being the person I probably would have been if our situations were reversed. Get some sleep, Diana. It was the first time he'd used her first name. She noticed. He saw her notice. Good night, Marcus. Good night. She walked toward the hallway, then stopped. Marcus. Yeah. The proposal. Workflow balance. It really was brilliant. I read it before the meeting. Every page. That's why I was so threatened by it. Marcus stared at her. You read it. I read everything. I just couldn't admit that you were right. That the entire system I'd built my career on was broken. She took a breath. When the storm passes, I'd like to talk about it more. If you're willing. We'll see. Fair enough. She disappeared down the hallway. Marcus sat alone in the kitchen listening to the storm and wondering what the hell had just happened to his life. He didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Diana's face, not the cold mask from the conference room, but the vulnerable woman who had sat at his kitchen table and told him the truth about herself. He wasn't sure what to do with that. Around 3 a.m., the storm finally began to ease. The thunder grew distant. The rain softened from a roar to a whisper. Marcus got up and checked on Grace. Still sleeping peacefully, Mr. Whiskers clutched tight. He walked to the living room and looked at Ethan on the couch. The boy had kicked off his blankets in his sleep. Marcus covered him back up, tucking the edges around him the way he did with Grace. Ethan stirred. Mom. No, buddy. Just Mr. Reed. Go back to sleep. Is my mom okay? She's fine. She's sleeping. Ethan's eyes opened fully. She was crying earlier, in the bathroom. She thought I couldn't hear, but I could. Marcus's chest tightened. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're stressed. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. She cries a lot, usually when she thinks I'm asleep. The words hit Marcus harder than he expected. Your mom loves you very much, Ethan. I can see that. I know. I just wish she wasn't so sad all the time. Marcus sat on the edge of the couch. Can I tell you something? Ethan nodded. My daughter Grace, she's about your age. When her mom died, I was very sad for a long time. I tried to hide it from Grace, but kids are smart. They notice things. What happened? Grace told me it was okay to be sad. She said we could be sad together, and somehow that made it easier. Ethan considered this. Maybe I should tell my mom it's okay to be sad. I think she'd like that. Mr. Reed. Yeah. Thanks for letting us in. My mom was really scared. She doesn't get scared very often. Everybody gets scared sometimes, buddy. Even the bravest people. Are you ever scared? All the time. Being a parent is the scariest thing in the world. Why? Because you love someone so much that you'd do anything to protect them. And you can't always protect them. That's terrifying. Ethan was quiet for a moment. I think you're a good dad. I think you're a good kid. Thanks. Now go back to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. Okay. Good night, Mr. Reed. Good night, Ethan. Marcus returned to Grace's room and lay down on the floor, staring at the ceiling. A good dad. That's all he'd ever wanted to be. He wondered if Diana ever felt the same way. If underneath all the armor and ice, she was just a mother trying to figure out how to do right by her son. He suspected she was. And that complicated everything. Morning came slowly. Marcus woke to the sound of voices in the kitchen. Children's voices. He sat up disoriented. Then he remembered. The storm. Diana. Ethan. He walked to the kitchen and found a scene he hadn't expected. Grace and Ethan were sitting at the table together. Grace was showing Ethan her science project, explaining the water filtration system with the enthusiasm of a professor giving a lecture. And then the dirty water goes through the sand, and the sand catches all the gross stuff, and the water comes out clean on the other side. See? That's really cool, Ethan said. How did you figure that out? My mom was a scientist. Daddy says I got her brain. My mom is a CEO. I don't know what I got from her. Maybe you got her bossiness, Grace suggested. Ethan laughed. Maybe. Marcus leaned against the doorframe watching them. Two children who had never met before becoming friends over a science project. As if the complicated history between their parents didn't exist. Kids were amazing that way. Daddy! Grace spotted him and ran over for a hug. There's a boy here. His name is Ethan and his mom is the Ice Queen, but she doesn't seem that mean, and can he stay for breakfast? Marcus looked at his daughter. You know who his mom is. She was sleeping in your room. I peeked in. She has yellow hair like Rapunzel. Grace, we talked about peeking into rooms. I know, but I heard noises, and I wanted to make sure there wasn't a monster. Was there a monster? No, just a lady. But she looked really tired, like she hadn't slept in a million years. That's probably accurate. So can Ethan stay for breakfast? I think that's the plan. Their car broke down in the storm. Grace's eyes went wide. That's so scary, Ethan. Were you scared? A little, Ethan admitted. But my mom held my hand the whole time. She said as long as we stuck together, we'd be okay. My daddy says that too. He says family is the most important thing. My mom says work is the most important thing. Grace frowned. That's sad. Work can't hug you. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. No, he said quietly. It can't. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Out of the mouths of babes. All right, you two, how about pancakes? Yes, both children shouted. But not the burned kind, Grace added. Daddy sometimes makes the burned kind. I do not. You do too. Remember last Tuesday? That was one time. It was very traumatic. Marcus laughed despite himself. Fine. No burned pancakes, I promise. He was halfway through the batter when Diana appeared in the doorway. She looked different in the morning light. Softer. More human. Sarah's Stanford sweatshirt hung off one shoulder, and her blonde hair was tangled from sleep. "Something smells good," she said. "Daddy's making pancakes," Grace announced. "I'm supervising to make sure they don't get burned." Diana's lips twitched. "That sounds like an important job." "It is. I take it very seriously." Diana walked over to stand beside Marcus at the stove. "Can I help with anything?" "You can pour the orange juice. Glasses are in the cabinet above the sink." They worked side by side in silence. It should have been awkward. After everything that had happened, the humiliation, the storm, the confessions standing in a kitchen together making breakfast should have felt impossible. Instead, it felt strangely natural. "I called a tow truck," Diana said quietly. "They can get to the car around noon." "Good. Marcus, about last night. We don't have to talk about it." "I want to." He looked at her. "Okay." "I meant what I said. About your proposal. About wanting to discuss it further." "Diana, I appreciate that, but I'm not offering you a promotion or a raise or anything like that. I'm offering you a chance to be heard. Really heard. No boardroom politics, no power plays, just a conversation about how to make things better." Marcus flipped a pancake. "Why?" "Because you were right. And because I'm tired of being the person who tears down good ideas because I'm too scared to admit I don't have all the answers." "That's a big change." "I know. I'm not saying it'll happen overnight. I've spent years building these walls. They're not going to come down in a single conversation." "But you want to try?" "I want to try." Grace tugged on Diana's sleeve. "Miss Diana." Diana looked down. "Yes, sweetheart." "Are you going to be nicer to my daddy at work now?" Diana glanced at Marcus, then back at Grace. "I'm going to try very hard to be nicer to everyone, including your daddy." "Good, because he works really hard and he deserves to be treated nicely. That's what he always tells me, treat people the way you want to be treated." "Your daddy is a wise man." "I know. He also makes pretty good pancakes when he doesn't burn them." "Hey," Marcus protested. Everyone laughed, and for one strange, perfect moment, the four of them felt like something they weren't supposed to be, a family. The morning passed quickly. After breakfast, Grace insisted on showing Ethan her room, which led to an extended tour of her dinosaur collection, her bookshelf, and the secret fort she'd built in her closet. Marcus and Diana sat in the living room drinking coffee and waiting for the tow truck. "She's incredible," Diana said, watching Grace lead Ethan around like a museum curator. "Your daughter. She's so confident, so sure of herself." "She gets that from her mother. And her kindness. Where does that come from?" Marcus considered the question. "I'd like to say she gets that from me. But honestly, I think kids are born kind. They only learn cruelty from watching adults." Diana flinched. "That's a hard thing to hear." "It's not meant as an accusation." "I know, but it's still hard." She was quiet for a moment. "Ethan used to be like Grace, when he was younger, full of joy and wonder and endless questions about everything. But the past few years..." "What happened?" "I happened. I was so focused on climbing the ladder, proving myself, building the career I'd lost. I forgot to be his mother. I was there physically, but I wasn't present. Not really." "It's not too late." "You think?" "I know. Kids are resilient. They forgive. They give second chances even when we don't deserve them." Diana's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to be the mother he needs." "Nobody knows at first. You figure it out as you go." "What if I fail?" "You will. Everyone does. The question is what you do after you fail." "What do you do?" "You apologize. You learn. You try again. And you keep trying every single day because that's what love is. Showing up even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Diana wiped her eyes. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple, but it is straightforward. The hardest things usually are. A horn honked outside. That's the tow truck, Diana said. I'll walk you out. They gathered the children who protested loudly about having to separate. But we were going to build a fort, Grace complained. And Grace was going to teach me about dinosaurs, Ethan added. Maybe another time, Diana said. Grace looked up at her father with those two perceptive eyes. Daddy, can Ethan come back? Please. Marcus looked at Diana. She looked back at him. Something passed between them. Something unspoken, but understood. We'll see, Marcus said. That means maybe yes, Grace informed Ethan. Daddy's "we'll see" is almost always maybe yes. My mom's "we'll see" is almost always no, Ethan said sadly. Diana's face crumpled. She knelt down to Ethan's level. Sweetheart, I'm going to try to be better about that. About a lot of things. Okay. Okay, Mom. I love you. You know that, right? I know. I'm sorry I don't say it enough. It's okay. No, it's not. But I'm going to fix it. She hugged him tight right there in Marcus's living room, and Marcus saw something he'd never expected to see on Diana Hawkins' face. Hope. At the door, Diana turned to Marcus. Thank you, she said, for everything. I know that doesn't begin to cover it, but it's a start, she nodded. Monday, your proposal. Bring it to my office. We'll talk. Just talk. Just talk. I promise. Marcus held out his hand. Diana looked at it for a moment. Then she took it. Her grip was firm, warm. Nothing like the cold, dismissive woman who had torn his work apart 24 hours ago. Goodbye, Marcus. Goodbye, Diana. She walked to the tow truck, Ethan's hand in hers. At the last moment, she turned back. Marcus. Yeah. Come in before I change my mind. That's what you said last night. I remember. I'm glad you didn't change your mind. Me too. She got into the truck. The door closed. The engine started. Marcus watched them drive away until they disappeared around the corner. Grace appeared beside him, slipping her hand into his. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart. I don't think she's the Ice Queen anymore. Marcus looked down at his daughter. No. No. I think the ice is starting to melt. Marcus thought about the woman who had sat at his kitchen table and cried. Who had apologized. Who had promised to try. Yeah, he said. I think you might be right. Daddy. Yes? Can we have pancakes for dinner too? Marcus laughed. Sure, sweetheart. Pancakes for dinner. The not burned kind. The not burned kind. They walked back inside together, father and daughter, leaving the storm behind. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Something important. Something that couldn't be unchanged. And he wasn't sure if that terrified him or gave him hope. Maybe both. 3 months felt like 3 years. 3 months of late-night meetings in Diana's office redesigning the workflow system together. 3 months of weekend playdates where Grace and Ethan built forts and argued about dinosaurs. 3 months of something growing between them that neither dared to name. And then everything shattered. It started with a phone call. Marcus was at his desk reviewing the final implementation plans for workflow balance when his cell phone buzzed. A number he didn't recognize. Marcus Reed speaking. Mr. Reed, this is Principal Henderson from Westbrook Elementary. There's been an incident involving your daughter. His blood went cold. What kind of incident? Is Grace okay? She's physically fine, but she's very upset. We need you to come to the school immediately. I'm on my way. Marcus grabbed his coat and headed for the elevator. He passed Diana's office on the way out. She looked up from her computer. Marcus? What's wrong? Something happened at Grace's school. I have to go. Diana was on her feet immediately. I'm coming with you. Diana, you don't have to. Ethan goes to the same school. If something happened, I need to know. They drove together in tense silence. Marcus's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. At the school, they were ushered into the principal's office. Grace sat in one of the chairs, her face tear-streaked, her hands clasped in her lap. Ethan sat beside her, looking equally devastated. "Grace." Marcus rushed to his daughter and knelt beside her. "Baby, what happened? Are you hurt?" Grace threw her arms around his neck and sobbed. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." Didn't mean to what Grace talked to me to. Principal Henderson cleared her throat. "Perhaps I should explain." Diana had crossed to Ethan and was holding him close. "There was an altercation during lunch," the principal said. "A group of older students were bullying Ethan, calling him names, saying unkind things about his family situation." Diana's face went pale. "What kind of things?" "They were calling him—" "I'm sorry, Ms. Hawkins. They were saying his mother was— well, the term they used was Ice Queen. They said she was mean and cold, and that's why his father left." Diana made a sound like she'd been punched. Grace intervened, Henderson continued. She confronted the older students, told them to stop. When they didn't, she— "She what?" Marcus asked. "She pushed one of them. The boy fell and scraped his knee. His parents are demanding consequences." Marcus looked at his daughter. "Grace, is that true? Did you push someone?" Grace's face crumpled. "They were being mean to Ethan, Daddy. They were saying horrible things about his mom. I told them to stop, but they wouldn't listen. They just kept saying it louder and louder, and Ethan was crying, and I got so mad, and I just—" She dissolved into tears. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I know hitting is wrong. I know. But they were hurting my friend, and I couldn't just stand there and do nothing." Marcus pulled her close. "Oh, sweetheart." Diana knelt beside Ethan. "Baby, are you okay?" Ethan wouldn't look at her. "They called you the Ice Queen, Mom. They said you were mean to everyone. They said that's why Dad left us." "Ethan, is it true? Did Dad leave because you were mean?" Diana's face shattered. "No, baby, that's not— Your father left because he wasn't ready to be a father. It had nothing to do with— But you are mean sometimes. I've seen it. At your work, on the phone. You yell at people and make them feel bad." "Ethan, Why do you have to be like that? Why can't you just be nice like Grace's dad?" The words hung in the air like broken glass. Diana looked like she might collapse. Marcus stood up, still holding Grace. "Principal Henderson, can we have a moment alone with the children?" "Of course. I'll step outside." The principal left. The door closed. The four of them sat in silence. Finally, Marcus spoke. "Ethan, look at me." Ethan looked up, his eyes red. "Those kids at school, they don't know your mom. They only know what they've heard. Rumors, gossip, that's not the whole truth. But I know your mom. I've spent 3 months working with her, and yes, she can be tough. She can be demanding. But you know what else she is?" Ethan shook his head. "She's brave. She's smart. She works harder than anyone I've ever met. And she loves you more than anything in the world." Diana's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Reed—" "I'm not finished." Marcus looked at Diana. 3 months ago, your mom stood in front of a room full of executives and tore my work apart. She humiliated me. Made me feel about 2 inches tall." Ethan's eyes went wide. "And then that same night, she showed up on my doorstep in the middle of a storm. Scared, desperate, asking for help. And you know what I saw?" "What?" "I saw a mother who would do anything to keep her son safe. I saw a woman who had been hurt so badly that she built walls around her heart. But behind those walls, there was someone kind, someone good, someone who just needed a chance to show it." Diana was crying openly now. "Your mom isn't perfect, Ethan. Nobody is. But she's trying. Every single day she's trying to be better. And that's all any of us can do. Ethan looked at his mother. Is that true, Mom? Are you trying? Diana knelt down and took his hands. I'm trying so hard, baby. I know I haven't always been the mom you needed. I know I've put work first too many times. But these past 3 months, Marcus and Grace have shown me what I was missing, what we were missing. She touched his face. I love you, Ethan. You are the most important thing in my life, more important than any job or any career. And I'm sorry it took me so long to show you that. Ethan's lip trembled. I love you too, Mom. He threw his arms around her. Diana held him tight, crying into his hair. Grace tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Daddy. Yeah, sweetheart. I'm still in trouble, aren't I? Marcus sighed. Yes, baby. You're still in trouble. We don't push people even when we're angry. But they were being mean to Ethan. I know, and your heart was in the right place, but there are better ways to stand up for people. Like what? Like telling a teacher, like walking away, like using your words instead of your hands. Grace considered this. But words don't always work. No, they don't. But violence shouldn't be our first choice. It shouldn't even be our second or third. What if it's our fourth choice? Despite everything, Marcus smiled. Let's try to keep it off the list entirely, okay? Okay, Daddy. She hugged him. Daddy. Yeah. Are you and Miss Diana, like, together? Marcus went still. He glanced at Diana, who was watching him over Ethan's shoulder. Why do you ask, sweetheart? Because you look at her the way you used to look at Mommy. And she looks at you the way the princess looks at the knight in my storybooks. Marcus's heart clenched. Grace. I think it's okay, Daddy. I think Mommy would want you to be happy. She always said happiness is something you choose, not something you wait for. Marcus felt tears burning behind his eyes. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart, Daddy. You just don't always notice. He laughed and pulled her close. I love you, Jellybean. I love you too, Daddy. Principal Henderson returned a few minutes later. We've spoken with the other parents, she said. Given the circumstances, the bullying that preceded Grace's actions, we've agreed to mutual consequences. Both Grace and the older student will serve 1 day of in-school suspension. We're also implementing a new anti-bullying protocol. Thank you, Marcus said. And Ms. Hawkins. Diana looked up. The children who were saying those things about you, their parents have been notified. They'll be addressed. Diana nodded slowly. Thank you, Principal Henderson, but I'd like to speak with those parents myself, if they're willing. That's not necessary. It is to me. The rumors those children were spreading. They didn't come from nowhere. They came from things they overheard at home, from the reputation I've built. She took a breath. I can't change what I've done, but I can change what I do next. And that starts with taking responsibility. Henderson studied her for a long moment. I'll pass along your request. They left the school together, the children walking ahead. Grace and Ethan held hands. Already best friends again, the crisis forgotten in the way only children could forget. Diana walked beside Marcus, their shoulders almost touching. Thank you, she said quietly, for what you said in there. I meant every word. I know, that's what makes it so terrifying. Marcus glanced at her. Terrifying. I've spent years convincing myself that I don't need anyone, that relationships are weaknesses to be exploited. And then you come along and... She trailed off. And what? And I start wanting things I'd given up on. Wanting to be part of something. Someone's partner. Someone's... She couldn't finish. Marcus stopped walking. Diana stopped too. The children kept going oblivious, their chatter fading into the distance. Diana. Don't. Don't what? Don't say what you're about to say, because if you say it, I won't be able to pretend anymore, and I'm not ready to stop pretending. Why not? Because pretending keeps me safe. Pretending means I can't be hurt. And this. Marcus gestured between them. What we've been building these past 3 months. That's just pretending. Diana's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what it is. I just know that it scares me more than anything has scared me in years. Me too. She looked at him. You're scared. Terrified. I lost my wife Diana. I watched the person I loved most in the world leave me forever. The thought of opening myself up again, of risking that kind of loss. He shook his head. It keeps me up at night. Then why do it? Why risk it? Marcus looked at her, this complicated, damaged, beautiful woman who had crashed into his life during a storm and upended everything he thought he knew. Because Grace is right, he said. Happiness is something you choose. And I'm tired of choosing safety over possibility. Diana's breath caught. Marcus! I'm not asking for anything, Diana. I'm not making demands or setting ultimatums. I'm just telling you the truth, because you told me yours that first night. And I think maybe it's time I returned the favor. What truth? I'm falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them. Diana stood frozen, eyes wide, hands trembling. You can't, she whispered. You can't love me. You've seen what I am, what I do, how I hurt people. I've also seen who you're becoming, who you could be. What if that's not enough? What if I can't change? What if I just hurt you, and Grace, and Ethan? Then we'll deal with it, together. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple, but it is worth it. Diana was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to do this, Marcus. I don't know how to be soft, vulnerable, open. Then learn, the way you're learning everything else. What if I fail? Then you try again. That's what love is, Diana. Falling down and getting back up, hurting each other, and choosing to forgive. Making mistakes and trusting that the other person will stay anyway. He stepped closer. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to be present, to show up, to try. That's all? That's everything. Diana looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that broke him wide open. I'm falling in love with you too. Marcus felt his heart stop. You are? I've been falling since the night you opened your door. Since you handed me your wife's clothes and made me tea and listened to my story without judgment. Since you showed me what real strength looks like. She wiped her eyes. Real strength isn't about being cold or hard or untouchable. Real strength is what you did that night. Opening yourself up when you had every reason to stay closed. Choosing kindness when cruelty would have been so much easier. Diana. I want to be that kind of strong Marcus. I want to learn. I want to be better. For Ethan. For you. For myself. She took his hand. Teach me, please. Marcus looked at their intertwined fingers. At this woman who had been his enemy and was becoming something else entirely. Together, he said. Together. They stood there, hands clasped, as the afternoon sun broke through the clouds. Behind them, Grace's voice rang out. Daddy, are you and Miss Diana kissing? Because that's gross, but also kind of romantic. Marcus laughed. Not yet, Jellybean. Well, hurry up, Ethan, and I want to go get ice cream. Diana looked at Marcus with tears in her eyes and laughter on her lips. I think we've been given our orders. Apparently so. He didn't kiss her then. Not with the kids watching, not in the school parking lot, not when everything was still so new and fragile. But he held her hand all the way to the car. And Diana, the Ice Queen, the CEO, the woman who had built walls so high she'd almost forgotten there was a person behind them, held his hand right back, and didn't let go. The weeks that followed were the hardest of Diana's life. Word had gotten out about what happened at the school, about the CEO's son being bullied, about the names the children had called her. The board members started asking questions, productivity reports, employee satisfaction surveys. The same data Marcus had presented 3 months ago now weaponized against her. "The numbers don't lie, Ms. Hawkins," Victor Chen said, sliding a folder across the conference table. "Turnover is up, morale is down. The company culture you've built is toxic. I know." The board members exchanged glances. "You know." "I've known for months." Marcus Reed's proposal outlined it clearly. "I dismissed it because I was too proud to admit I was wrong." Diana stood up. "Gentlemen, I'm not going to sit here and defend the indefensible. The culture I created at Sterling Technologies prioritized results over people. It burned out our best employees and created an environment where bullying, even among the children of executives, became normalized." She took a breath. "That ends now." "What exactly are you proposing?" Victor asked. "Full implementation of the workflow balance system, flexible hours, mental health support, management training focused on collaborative leadership rather than authoritarian control. That will require significant investment. Less investment than our current turnover rate costs us. Marcus's projections show $2.3 million in annual savings once the system is fully implemented. And the board is supposed to just trust these projections. No, you're supposed to evaluate them based on the evidence. The same evidence you ignored when it was presented 3 months ago." Diana looked around the table. "I humiliated Marcus Reed in this very room. I tore up his work and called him naive. I was wrong. He was right. And I'm not going to compound that mistake by continuing to ignore the truth." Silence. Then Victor spoke. "And if we don't approve this plan—" Diana straightened her spine. "Then I'll resign. And I'll make sure everyone knows exactly why." The ultimatum hung in the air. Victor studied her for a long moment. "This isn't like you, Diana. 3 months ago you would have fought tooth and nail to maintain the status quo. 3 months ago I was a different person. What changed?" Diana thought about Marcus, about Grace, about Ethan's face when he asked if his father had left because she was mean. "I did," she said simply. "I changed." The board voted unanimously to approve workflow balance. Diana called Marcus from her office. "It passed." "What?" "The board approved the plan. Full implementation, starting next quarter." Silence on the other end. Then, "Diana, that's incredible." "It's because of you. All of it." "No. It's because you were brave enough to stand up and tell the truth. That's not me. That's you." Diana felt tears threatening again. She'd cried more in the past 3 months than she had in the previous 3 years combined. "I told them I'd resign if they didn't approve it." "You what?" "I meant it too. I was ready to walk away from everything I'd built." "Why?" "Because some things are more important than corner offices and stock options. Because I have a son who needs to know that his mother can admit when she's wrong. Because—" she hesitated. "Because I love you. And I want to be someone worthy of that love." The words came easier now. Practice, she supposed. "Diana," Marcus's voice was rough. "I love you too. You know that." "I know. I'm still getting used to hearing it." "Get used to it. I plan on saying it a lot." Diana laughed. "I should go. I have about 100 things to do before I can leave the office." "Come over tonight. I'll make dinner. The not burned kind. I'll do my best. I'll take my chances." She hung up and sat back in her chair. The Ice Queen. That's what they'd called her. But ice melted. Walls came down. People changed. She was living proof. That night after the children were asleep, Diana and Marcus sat on his back porch, watching the stars. "Ethan asked me something today," Diana said. "What?" He asked if you were going to be his new dad. Marcus went still. What did you say? I said that was a conversation for grown-ups to have, and that whatever happened, he would always come first. Good answer. Was it the right answer? Marcus turned to look at her. Diana, I love Ethan, he's a great kid, but we've only been, whatever this is, for a few months. I don't want to rush anything. Neither do I. So we take it slow. We keep doing what we're doing, and if somewhere down the line it makes sense to make things more permanent, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Exactly. Diana leaned her head on his shoulder. Grace asked me something too. What? She asked if I loved you the way her mommy loved you. Marcus's breath caught. What did you say? I said I didn't know her mommy, but I knew that her mommy must have been an amazing woman to have a daughter like Grace, and that I hoped if she were watching, she would approve of me. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Sarah would have liked you. Really? She would have seen what I see. Someone who's been hurt. Someone who's trying to heal. Someone who loves her child with everything she has. He put his arm around her. Sarah believed in second chances. She believed in redemption. She would have wanted me to be happy. Are you happy? Marcus looked at the stars. 3 months ago, I was just surviving, going through the motions, waiting for time to pass. He turned to face her. Now I wake up looking forward to the day. I laugh more. I feel more. I'm present in a way I haven't been since Sarah died. Because of me. Because of everything. You, Ethan, the project at work. But mostly, he kissed her forehead, mostly because you showed me that it's possible to start over, that the worst night of your life can become the beginning of something beautiful. Diana's eyes filled with tears. The worst night of my life was standing on your doorstep in that storm. And now it's the best thing that ever happened to me. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. Two broken people who had found each other in the darkness. Two families who were slowly becoming one. Two hearts that had been frozen by grief and fear and loneliness finally beginning to thaw. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, misunderstandings, moments when old patterns threatened to resurface, but they would face them together, because that's what love was, not a destination, a journey, and they had only just begun. 1 year later, Marcus stood in his living room holding a small velvet box and trying to remember how to breathe. Grace and Ethan were at a sleepover. Diana was on her way over for dinner. Everything was in place, except his nerves. You can do this, he muttered to himself. You've faced down corporate boards. You've survived 3 years as a single father. You can propose to the woman you love. The doorbell rang. Marcus shoved the box into his pocket and wiped his sweating palms on his pants. Diana stood on the porch wearing the same red dress she'd worn the night of the storm. The night everything changed. You look beautiful, Marcus said. You look terrified. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything's fine. Come in. Diana raised an eyebrow but didn't push. She followed him into the dining room where he'd set the table with candles and flowers and the good china he never used. Marcus, what is all this dinner? This isn't just dinner. This is a production. Can't a man make a nice dinner for his girlfriend? A man can, but you usually burn things and order pizza. This is suspicious. Marcus laughed despite his nerves. Just sit down and enjoy it, please. They ate dinner together, talking about work and the kids and the vacation they were planning for the summer. Normal things, easy things. But the box in Marcus's pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. After dessert, Diana set down her fork and looked at him. Okay, out with it. Out with what? Whatever's been making you jumpy all evening. You've checked your pocket 17 times. You've barely touched your food. And you keep looking at me like you're about to deliver bad news. Marcus took a breath. It's not bad news. Then what is it? He stood up from the table. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. Every instinct screamed at him to abort, to make an excuse to retreat to safety. But he thought about Sarah, about what she would want for him, for Grace, about the year he'd spent falling deeper in love with Diana, watching her transform from the Ice Queen into someone warm and real and present, about Grace and Ethan building forts and arguing about dinosaurs and calling each other siblings even though they weren't, not yet. Diana? She looked up at him. Yes. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the box. Diana's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus, let me say this. Please, I've been practicing for weeks, and if I don't say it now, I might lose my nerve. Diana nodded, eyes already filling with tears. Marcus got down on one knee. 1 year ago, you stood on my doorstep in the worst storm of the decade. You were the woman who had humiliated me. The woman who had torn my work apart. The woman I had every reason to hate. He opened the box. The ring caught the candlelight and sparkled. But I didn't hate you. I couldn't. Because when I looked past the armor you'd built, I saw someone who was just as broken as I was. Someone who was fighting battles no one else could see. Someone who needed grace. His voice cracked. And Grace, my Grace, she saw it too. She said the Ice Queen just needed someone patient enough to help her remember how to be warm. She was right. Diana was crying openly now. This past year has been the happiest of my life since Sarah died. Not because you fixed me, you didn't, but because you showed me that broken people can build something beautiful together. That second chances are real. That love doesn't have to be safe to be worth it. He took her hand. Diana Hawkins, I love you. I love your strength and your vulnerability. I love your fierceness and your tenderness. I love the mother you've become and the woman you're still becoming. He looked into her eyes. I want to spend the rest of my life learning you, growing with you, building a family with you. So I'm asking, will you marry me? Diana stared at him. For one terrible moment, Marcus thought she was going to say no. Then she slid off her chair and knelt on the floor in front of him. Yes. The word came out as a whisper. Yes. Yes, Marcus Reed. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. Then he kissed her. Soft at first. Gentle. A promise more than a passion. Then deeper. Fiercer. Like they were trying to make up for all the years they'd spent alone. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. I love you, Diana said. I love you too. We're getting married. We are. The kids are going to lose their minds. Marcus laughed. Grace has been asking me when I'm going to make it official for months. I think she might explode. Ethan asked me last week if you were going to be his real dad. I didn't know what to say. What do you want to say? Diana looked at the ring on her finger. I want to say yes. I want him to have a father who shows up, who's present, who teaches him what real strength looks like. And Grace. She needs a mother. I know I can't replace Sarah. You're not replacing anyone. You're adding to our family. That's different. Diana's eyes filled with fresh tears. I never thought I'd have this. A real family. A partner. A home that feels like more than just a place to sleep between meetings. You have it now. I know, and it terrifies me. Why? Because I have something to lose. For years I kept everyone at arm's length because I thought that made me safe, but it just made me lonely. She touched his face. You taught me that safety isn't the same as happiness. That walls might keep out the pain, but they also keep out the love. Sarah used to say something similar. She sounds like she was very wise. She was. You would have liked her. I think I would have too. They sat together on the dining room floor, holding hands, the remains of dinner forgotten on the table above them. When should we tell the kids? Diana asked. Tomorrow, when they come home from the sleepover. Together. Together. Diana leaned her head on his shoulder. I still can't believe this is my life. Which part? All of it. The engagement, the ring, sitting on the floor of your dining room when there's a perfectly good couch 10 feet away. Marcus laughed. We can move to the couch if you want. No. I like it here. This is where it happened. This is where everything changed. In the dining room. In this house. That night during the storm. When you opened the door instead of closing it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd left you standing in the rain? I try not to, but sometimes I think about how close I came to losing everything. Not just that night, but every day before it. Every choice I made that built those walls higher. But you're here now. I'm here now. That's what matters. Diana nodded. Marcus. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For not closing the door. For giving me a chance I didn't deserve. For being patient while I learned how to be human again. You were always human, Diana. You just forgot for a while. I remembered because of you. And Grace, and Ethan. They helped too. Diana smiled. They did. Kids have a way of cutting through the nonsense. Grace calls it her truth-telling superpower. She says it's very inconvenient for adults. Diana laughed. She's not wrong. They sat in comfortable silence for a few more minutes. Then Diana said, We should probably get off the floor. My knees are starting to complain. Mine too. We're not as young as we used to be. Speak for yourself. I'm in the prime of my life. You're 42. Prime of my life. Marcus helped her up, both of them groaning slightly. Couch, he offered. Couch. They settled onto the sofa together, Diana tucked under Marcus's arm, her left hand resting on his chest so she could look at her ring. It's beautiful, she said. It was Sarah's grandmother's. Sarah wore it until she passed. I've been keeping it for Grace, but when I asked her if it was okay to give it to you, she said, You asked Grace's permission. Of course I did. This affects her too. Diana's eyes filled with tears again. What did she say? She said, Daddy, that ring has been waiting for someone special. Diana is someone special. Great-grandma would be happy. Diana covered her face with her hands. I'm going to cry again. That's okay. Crying is allowed. I've cried more in the past year than in the entire decade before. Is that a bad thing? Diana considered the question. No. I think I was frozen for so long that I forgot what it felt like to feel things. Real things. Not just anger and ambition, but joy and grief and love. And now I feel everything. It's overwhelming sometimes, but also beautiful. That's what being alive feels like. Diana looked at him. I wasn't alive before, not really. I was just existing, going through the motions, hitting targets and climbing ladders and telling myself that success would eventually make me happy. Did it? You know it didn't. I was the most successful, miserable person I knew. And now I'm happy. Actually, genuinely happy. And it has nothing to do with my job title or my salary or my stock options. What does it have to do with? Diana touched his face. You, Grace, Ethan, this, being part of something bigger than myself. Marcus kissed her palm. I'm glad you knocked on my door. I'm glad you opened it. The next morning, Marcus and Diana stood in the living room, waiting for the kids to come home. I'm nervous, Diana admitted. Why? They're going to be thrilled. What if they're not? What if they think we're moving too fast? Diana, Grace has been calling you Mom in her head for months. She told me. She did. She asked if it was okay. I said it was up to you. Diana's heart clenched. She can call me Mom. If she wants to. I would be, I would be honored. The front door burst open. Grace and Ethan tumbled inside, both talking at once about the sleepover and the movie they'd watched and the pillow fight that had gotten slightly out of control. Daddy, Diana. Grace stopped short when she saw them standing together. Her eyes went to Diana's left hand, and then she screamed. You did it, Daddy! You did it! You asked her! She launched herself at both of them, nearly knocking Diana over. You're getting married? We're going to be a real family. Ethan stood frozen by the door. Mom, is it true? Diana knelt down and held out her hand, showing him the ring. It's true, baby. Marcus asked me to marry him, and I said yes. Ethan's face went through about 17 different emotions in 3 seconds. Then he burst into tears. Ethan, sweetheart, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, he sobbed. I'm so happy. I didn't think we'd ever. Diana pulled him into her arms. I know, baby. I know. Does this mean Marcus is going to be my dad? For real? Diana looked at Marcus. Marcus knelt down so he was at Ethan's level. If you want me to be, he said. I'm not trying to replace your biological father, but I would be proud to be your dad, to be there for you, to watch you grow up. Ethan threw his arms around Marcus's neck. I want that. I really want that. Marcus held him tight. Then that's what we'll be. A family. Grace tugged on Diana's sleeve. Does this mean I can call you Mom now because I've been practicing in my head for like forever? Diana laughed through her tears. You can call me Mom, sweetheart. I would love that. Grace grinned. Mom, 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 Mom. That sounds so good. Mom. Okay, don't wear it out. Too late. Mom. The 4 of them stood in the living room, crying and laughing and holding on to each other. A family. Not perfect. Not traditional. Not what any of them had planned. But real. And that was enough. The wedding was small. Just family and close friends gathered in Marcus's backyard on a sunny Saturday in June. Grace was the flower girl. She took the job extremely seriously, scattering petals with military precision. Ethan was the ring bearer. He managed not to drop the rings, which he later declared was the most stressful moment of his entire life. Marcus wore a simple gray suit. Diana wore a white dress that flowed around her like water. They wrote their own vows. Marcus went first. Diana, 1 year ago I opened my door to a stranger in a storm. I didn't know that stranger would become my best friend, my partner, my love. He took her hands. I didn't know that the worst night of your life would become the beginning of the best part of mine. I didn't know that the Ice Queen would turn out to be the warmest person I'd ever met. Diana laughed through her tears. I promise to keep opening doors for you, to keep choosing you every day even when it's hard, to keep building this family we've created brick by brick, storm by storm. He squeezed her hands. I love you, Diana. Not despite your walls, but because you were brave enough to let them down. Not despite your past, but because it made you who you are. I love all of you. Forever. Diana took a shaky breath. Marcus, 1 year ago I was the woman who tore your work apart in front of an entire boardroom. I was cruel. I was cold. I was everything I'd sworn I'd never become. Her voice cracked. And then the universe put me on your doorstep. Broken. Desperate. Terrified. And you could have closed the door. You should have closed the door. She looked into his eyes. But you didn't. You said 5 words that changed my life. Come in before I change my mind. Marcus's eyes were wet. You gave me shelter when I deserved to be left in the rain. You gave me grace when I deserved judgment. You gave me a second chance when I'd already wasted so many. She touched his face. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that grace. I promise to keep melting, keep growing, keep becoming the woman you see when you look at me. I love you, Marcus Reed. You taught me that strength isn't about building walls. It's about having the courage to tear them down." The officiant smiled. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Marcus pulled Diana into his arms and kissed her. The small crowd cheered. Grace and Ethan ran forward, wrapping their arms around both of them. "We're a family," Grace shouted. "For real and officially. Can we have cake now?" Ethan asked. Everyone laughed. Marcus looked at his family, his wife, his daughter, his son, and felt something he'd thought he'd never feel again: complete. That night, after the guests had gone and the kids were finally asleep, Marcus and Diana sat on the back porch. The same porch where they'd had so many conversations. The same porch where Marcus had first told her he was falling in love. "We did it," Diana said. "We did. We're married. We are. I'm Diana Reed now. How does it feel?" Diana looked at her wedding ring nestled against the engagement ring. "Like coming home. Like I finally belong somewhere." "You do. You belong here, with us." Diana leaned her head on his shoulder. "A year ago, I was standing on this porch in a storm, wondering if you'd let me in. I almost didn't. I know, I saw it on your face, the hesitation, the anger. But then I saw Ethan, and you couldn't turn away a child." "No, I couldn't." Diana was quiet for a moment. "Do you ever regret it? Opening that door?" Marcus pulled her closer. "Not for a single second. Even when I'm difficult, when my old habits come back, when I snap at people without meaning to. Even then, we all have bad days, Diana. We all fall back into old patterns sometimes. What matters is that we keep trying." "I'm trying. I know you are. I see it every day." Diana closed her eyes. "Marcus." "Yeah. Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing the person I could be even when I couldn't see it myself. For loving me through all the hard parts. That's what marriage is, loving someone through the hard parts. Is it always this terrifying? The good stuff usually is." Diana laughed softly. "I used to think fear was weakness, that if I was scared it meant I was doing something wrong. And now I think fear just means I have something worth protecting, something I can't afford to lose." "You won't lose us, Diana. We're not going anywhere." "Promise?" "Promise." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear one by one. Inside the house, Grace and Ethan slept in their rooms, safe and loved. Outside, the night was quiet, peaceful. Nothing like the storm that had brought them together a year ago. But Marcus knew there would be other storms. There always were. What mattered was facing them together. What mattered was choosing love over fear, connection over isolation, family over safety. What mattered was opening doors instead of closing them. "Marcus." "Yeah. I love you." "I love you too, Diana Reed." She smiled. "Diana Reed, I like the sound of that." "So do I." She nestled closer to him. "Tell me a story." "What kind of story?" "The kind you tell Grace. About the knight and the Ice Queen." Marcus smiled. "Once upon a time there was a brave knight who lived in a small cottage with his daughter, the cleverest princess in all the land." "That's Grace." "That's Grace." One stormy night, a queen arrived at his door. She had been lost in the cold for so long that ice had formed around her heart. What happened? The knight let her in. He warmed her by the fire. And slowly, day by day, the ice began to melt. Did the queen change? She did. She learned that walls couldn't protect you from loneliness. That strength wasn't about being cold. It was about being brave enough to feel. She learned to love again. Diana wiped her eyes. And the knight, what did he learn? He learned that grief didn't have to be the end of the story. That second chances were real. That the door you almost close might be the one that leads to everything you've been searching for. How does the story end? Marcus kissed the top of her head. It doesn't end. The knight and the queen and their children lived together in the cottage, facing whatever storms came their way, together. That's not a traditional ending. No, it's better. It's a beginning. Diana smiled. I like beginnings. Me too. They sat together under the stars, husband and wife, watching the night deepen. Some stories end with happily ever after. This one ended with something better. It ended with four people who had found each other during a storm, who had chosen connection over isolation, who had built something beautiful from broken pieces and borrowed hope. It ended with a family. And the next morning, when Diana woke to the sound of children arguing about breakfast, she smiled. Pancakes. Eggs. Pancakes are scientifically proven to be better. That's not real science, Grace. It is too. I made a chart. Diana laughed, eyes still closed. Marcus's arm was draped over her. They're loud, he mumbled. They're perfect. That too. The argument intensified. Mom, Dad, Grace is making up fake science again. I am not. Pancakes are objectively superior. Diana extricated herself from Marcus's embrace. Coming, she called. She headed downstairs to mediate the great breakfast debate. She found both children in the kitchen, surrounded by ingredients, apparently having reached a compromise of making everything. Mom, tell Ethan that pancakes are better. Mom, tell Grace that scientific consensus requires peer review. Diana looked at her children covered in flour and indignation. I think we should make both and conduct a blind taste test. Both children considered this. That's acceptable, Ethan conceded. I'll design the methodology, Grace agreed. Perfect. I'll make coffee. Marcus appeared in the doorway, hair mussed. Coffee? Diana offered. Please. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. Happy? Diana looked at the flour-covered kitchen, at the children debating about control groups, at the morning light streaming through windows. Yes, she said. I'm happy. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't perfect. It was better. It was real. And it had all started with 5 words spoken during the worst storm in a decade, when a man who had every reason to turn her away opened his door instead. Come in before I change my mind. Those weren't just words. They were the beginning of everything. And now, standing in her kitchen with flour on the counter, and children arguing, and a husband who loved her despite all her sharp edges, Diana finally understood what home meant. It meant having someone who opened the door. It meant having somewhere to belong. It meant choosing love every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. That was the real ending. Not happily ever after. Just happy. Here. Now. Together. And that was more than enough.